headquarters of common sense.
Talk Radio.
I'm joined now by comedian Tanya Lee Davis. Tanya Lee, thank you so much for your time. Tanya, tell me what you, first and foremost, let's start with the headline. What did you think about what Peter Dinklage said? And are you, when you see Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, do you see that as a slur?
Okay, first of all, Peter Dinklage is a phenomenal actor, has received Academy Awards, Screen Actors Guild, Golden Globe Awards. He is the top of his echelon. His most recent role, of course, in Game of Thrones, which was, took him to the highest levels, was him playing a drunk, sleeping around dwarf whose father wanted to kill him because he was a dwarf. He was shunned from his family. I mean, that's not exactly, the most fun-loving, great character if you want to do a portrayal. Whereas Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, these dudes all live in a cave. They've got their own house. They're working in a diamond mine. I mean, they've got a job. That's a great role model for people in society these days. At the end of the day, this really shouldn't be news, in my opinion. It's a classic Disney movie. They're remaking all of them. If they decided, we're not going to do Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, well, then that would be like, well, why? Why are we not being represented? But then they do it, and we're not being represented well in some, people's opinion. And you can't have it both ways.
It's a kind of they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. The history of, what is the term? Do you still say dwarves or do you say little people? What is the correct term?
Okay, well, as an international performer, I've realized that it also depends on which country you are in, which is sort of people prefer. In Australia, they prefer short stature. I notice in the UK, poor people of restricted growth, which I still find hysterical. But as far as the term little person or dwarf, we all have a form of dwarfism. So therefore, that makes us dwarves. In my book, that's more of a medical term. I don't think it's derogatory. When I was growing up, I was the only little person in my family. So Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was sort of my reference. And I wasn't made fun of with the Snow White stuff. But as soon as I started school and the kids were calling me, hey, look, there's the midget, there's the midget, that's why that term, the M word, if you will, takes on a negative connotation. Dwarfs, right. It's not that big of a deal.
And, looking back and researching the history of little people or dwarves, it goes way, way, way back. I mean, we just had International Holocaust Day, and there was a very famous dwarf family who was, in prison, acting and circuses and display. Does it worry you that so many people, that's their one and only sort of introduction, if you like, to dwarves? Or do you just think that's the way it is?
Well, the thing is it's personal choice. We live in a day and age where people have a choice. There are many dwarf actors out there that choose to take on those roles. If you don't want to audition for those roles, do not audition. Let somebody else have a chance. And this is a Hollywood Disney blockbuster movie. The opportunities that could lead 7 actors to amazing roles that then they can have a choice to say, I want to present myself in a different way in my next acting role, but then you have some leverage. And it's just about opportunities. I mean, there's always debate about the little people wrestling and stuff like that while they shouldn't be doing it. Well, that's not your decision. If they want to do it, it's entertainment. We have to
But Tanya Lee, what about things like dwarf throwing? That's a bit too much, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I've been tossed in my day, but, once again, personal choice. I don't recommend going around. I mean, it's a particular sport. I'm not a big fan. Little people are very fragile, but I know people that have made a decision that that's what they want to do. And you know what? No, whatever, that's your decision. And if we have to look at a broader thing in society, we just need to teach our children and people to respect themselves first, and that way they'll respect other people. And you know what, at the end of the day, if we just work on ourselves, what other people do, won't have that much bearing on us, because we'll be happy for other people's successes, and this is.
I couldn't agree more. And one of the things that I must admit, I saw Peter Dinklage, I've met Peter Dinklage actually, but I used to see him in this sci-fi series way before Game of Thrones. And I have to say, I saw him as a little person or a dwarf for about half an episode. After that, it was the personality and the character and everything else. And I'm guessing there's a feeling and as you started off by saying, he's at the top of his game. So, he's got to be kind of careful if he's kind of pulling up the drawbridge after him.
Well, the thing is Disney is holding a lot of weight, of course, of what he says, which now they are coming back saying they could potentially end up CGIing the characters, computer generating, which then means 7 actors are out of work. I mean, right. We live in a day and age where they can literally computer generate people with them not, even being there and just create modifications. So it doesn't really look like a dwarf person, and that way we won't get into trouble. But then you're taking away the jobs. And it's just, where does that end? I mean, if you just keep being offended by things, it's exhausting. There's a lot more things in the world that we could be discussing, and I believe in empowering people, and instead of saying, no, I'm sorry, you can't do that. Just keep building people up.
Thank you so much for your time, Tanya Lee. A really interesting view. Really lovely to meet you.
Good talk.
Hot talk. Bold talk. Talk radio.
Listen on your smart speaker.
Watch it live on your smart TV.
The world headquarters of common sense.
Talk Radio.